Well, I'd like to call this school board meeting to order. As always, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everybody could stand. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes to tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, we will move on to our first session of public comments. So we have nobody in attendance here in person, so we'll open it up to the online audience for public comment, session 1. All right. If there are no public comments, we'll move to the superintendent's report.
All right, I'll try to keep it brief, although there's so much going on and it's really all in the works, so nothing is complete. But I'll give you a couple of items that I think I've talked about before and more of just an update. So first of all, had a nice conversation with our bus company. And our bus company over this past year has done the runs with about 10 buses rather than the 12. In our contract, we have 12 buses. Everything's okay. They've been great working with, we've worked well together from a financial standpoint to make sure that we're paying for what we get and so forth. We believe that without raising any sort of budgetary items, that we are going to be able to work on an agreement to have late buses for our schools.
Oh,
As a result, because they'll have to do some work to balance the bus routes a little bit better than what they were, so that they're not kind of operating in emergency mode all the time. But we would then have 2 bus runs or routes, and there's a definition of that in which we won't go into right now. That we are going to look at having a conversation about to see if we can turn that into the equivalent of help supporting after school runs, which is something that this district actually has been talking about for almost a decade. So it's expensive, transportation's expensive, and this is one way of doing something significant without more funds. So we have more conversations, but I will just say it was a very favorable conversation.
Great.
And we're moving in the right direction.
I have a question related to busing.
Sure.
I wasn't planning on asking it, but since you brought it up.
Yep.
I know that with the last teacher contract, there was like,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna get the details wrong here, but there was like an extension of the school day for elementary school.
Mhm. 20 minutes, yes.
20 minutes. Is that,
Going to be at
what's
the
the,
end.
what's the impact of that to
Mhm.
students and bus schedules?
Right. The impact to students will be that they'll have 20 minutes more of instruction. It will be not at the beginning of the day. The impact will be at the end of the day. And the bus schedule, because it's the elementary schools, at the end of the day, that will work out well for the bus company itself. Also, especially from being at both places at the end of the day, seeing when the buses arrive, it may actually not be very different than what currently actually is happening. I would say that at Jaffrey Grade School in particular, they're waiting for a bus or 2 on a regular basis. Maybe not full 20 minutes, but a good 10, sometimes 15. And so I think with looking at the systems of dismissal with kids and getting them on those buses should already be there, ready to go. There should not be any problem, and you get them on. I don't think that parents and kids will see that big of a difference.
So it's not like a 20-minute difference at the end of the day for pickup, or is it, what about for parents that are coming to pick up?
Oh, okay, for parents
I'm
coming
asking
to
a
pick
different
up, yes,
question.
that's different. It will be later for them.
It'll probably be good to get
Get that
communication out
communication.
regarding.
Yep.
Well, also, I mean, drop off at their houses, wouldn't that be later too? Because I mean, if it's already 10 to 15 minutes later, will that extra 20 minutes then make it 35 minutes?
I think there will be a little bit of an adjustment with, assuming everything stays status kind of the same. I would think that, again, if they come at the time and kids are able to get on the bus fairly quickly, I don't think individuals will see as large. I don't think they'll see the full 20 minutes, once they get going. Also, this goes along with the after-school bus conversation, is that if the bus routes are equalized, made sure that if there are 30 people on this bus, there are 30 here, 30 here, 30 here, rather than 60, 15, 10, that will make a difference. And so that will impact drop-off times and pickup times a lot more than anything. It's just making sure that there's a balance on those buses.
And it's just the elementary schools that are impacted with this schedule
That's
change,
correct.
correct? Right,
Mhm.
yeah.
After-school program, we continue to move forward with the development of that. Met with the town manager, and he has some items that I was able to get from one of the regional after-school program coalition facilitators. Gave me a bunch of job descriptions and other sorts of supporting documents, financial documents, things of that nature. So I believe that we're going to be putting that all together, and the town will end up advertising for those positions, those roles, and we'll see what the response is from there. Really, once you get the response and once you have those people on board, then the creation of everything can happen. And that doesn't have to take that long to do. I've implemented after-school programming before. It is not an easy thing to do, but if you have the right people, it is definitely something that can be done and in a way that makes sense and supports families in a quick way. Route 202, we continue to have conversations about that. I walked the Route 202 property on Thursday with a teacher. Teacher asked about a month and a half ago to do this. We find some time. It is the first time I've actually walked it since the tree cutting. And it is very different than what it was. And I think in a good way. Some of the trails were ruined in the process, so we had to kind of go through some of that property to get to the other side, which was fine. But we were able to identify 2 to 3, maybe even 4 very specific locations that actually you could do something quickly educationally out there because of the clearing of the space. And so that individual has given me a draft vision of what could be done, kind of a 2-year process of outdoor learning, outdoor education, both from an academic and a social emotional manner. Some items that would need to be out there, what the work would need to be like clearing brush, maybe leveling some dirt, putting tents out that we already own, those big ones that would have to be professionally put up. Locations near water, near certain ecosystems, other places where it's further away, that's closer to Route 202, the other one's closer to the rail trails. Very neat. I think I'll share with the board that sometime, but now that I've seen it and read through it, I need to talk to the elementary administrators and then also the administration here as well, just so that they know of some of the conversations that are being had. In a nutshell, for not a lot of money, we could do some really great things with the property that is there, as long as we have the willing participants and the design, who really want to design something pretty phenomenal that could grow into something significantly larger. So if you think about, multi-aged individual, groups out there doing their math, literacy, science, and so forth, the majority of the day in that outside environment. Obviously, plumbing and water are 2 necessities that we'd have to take care of. We've done outdoor education before, where kids were out all day. We use porta potties, things of that nature. Water is a different story. There is a well up there, but we could explore that. Planning, lots of planning going on. The elementary schools are in the midst of doing a lot of their planning. They are having some real success with their literacy teams that they've developed, and I'm excited for them as they continue to try to bond together and get some consistency between the two elementary schools going forward. The secondary school continues this planning. I would say, secondary school has been doing a lot more planning for a long period of time. Their middle school and high school has been united. They're continuing to move forward in a little bit more of a perhaps detailed way. All of them are coming together, and we have a yearly schedule of meeting time to make sure that our communication is strong and working through any difficulties we might have, so that we ensure a unified and consistent, cohesive plan with everything that we're doing from pre-K to graduation. Lots of work to do. And I think I'll end right there. I'll say one more thing. I know, pause too long, you gave me time. I was wondering.
Chris.
Yeah, Chris, do his moment here. Just on Wednesday morning, was supposed to be this morning, but because things popped up for the other individual, we couldn't do it, but I will be meeting on Wednesday morning with the superintendent over at Monadnock to discuss potential partnerships and efficiencies. What that means, I have no idea. We're just getting together to explore options, and first person who's wanted to do that, so that's good.
Who's over there, Jeremy? Is it-
Jeremy.
Yeah.
Rathbun.
Yep.
I think he took over midway through last year. Yeah.
Any questions for Ruben? Yes, Charlie.
Next month is August. And I wonder how close we are to having MOUs with, Jaffrey and, Rec Center.
I will make sure they're done. We're no closer, but I will make sure they're done. Part of it is, again, with Jaffrey wanting to see if this after school program element is going to change everything if we are going to do that. That's a big one. But that doesn't mean I can't get going on the ridge. Good question.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ruben. And we'll move on to the consent agenda. On this week's consent agenda, we have the manifests, 3 nominations, and the stipend list.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sandy. Any questions or discussion on this week's consent agenda? If not, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? It's okay, so that passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is the school board meeting minutes from 6/3. I'm just checking the dates here. One's from the hearing and one's from the meeting, so. The public meeting on 6/3, the public hearing on 6/24, and the public meeting that followed on 6/24.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from the June public meetings and hearings.
Thank you, Lisa.
You gonna do them separately?
Yeah, we can do them separately.
I was going through the names too to see if anybody was missing.
Yeah,
I will make a motion to accept the June 3rd public meeting minutes.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Charlie, as a second. Questions or discussion? We'll move to vote. All those in favor of approving the June 3rd school board public meeting minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed and abstentions, so that,
Abstention,
oh,
because I wasn't there.
we have one abstention, so that passes 4-0 to 1. That's for the June 3rd public meeting minutes.
I will make a motion to accept the public hearing minutes for June 24th.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Kim. Questions or comments? We'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the school board public hearing minutes from 6/24/2024, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So that passes 4-0 to 1.
I'll make a motion to accept the public meeting minutes for June 24th.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kim. Any questions or discussion? We'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the school board public meeting minutes from 6/24/2024, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Abstentions? So that passes 4-0 to 1. And that concludes the minutes. And we'll move on to action items, starting with the Little Orioles tuition proposal.
So last week, Lindsay, the lead teacher, and I did a lot of it, made several adjustments within the handbook, so we'll be bringing the handbooks at some point soon to the board for approval, but within that handbook, we would need to have tuition dollars updated. And so what is current is on your left-hand side, what we're proposing is on the right-hand side. Which, again, trying to make sure that the amounts are, I mean, they're certainly below the average that's out there, well below that. That's not the issue, but we're trying to get into that 7-8% of income sweet spot. We were successful last year. I had some grant funds to help last year. I'm looking for more grant funds this year, but I think we'll be okay. We budgeted tuition in there. So I think in order to provide raises to staff and so forth, there are added expenses. And we felt that a $40 increase per month was fair. Certainly, we go a little higher, but that's a pretty big chunk for somebody who, especially if they have a couple kids in there, which some of them aren't going to have that. So an $80 to $100 difference makes a big difference. When I think that already we've seen some significant benefit from having it here that perhaps wasn't our initial, desire, but retention and just other elements of greater camaraderie as a result is very important from this.
What's your expectation for the enrollment this year?
I think it'll be higher than last year. I know we have a couple individuals who will be moving along because due to age. We'll have all the other toddlers back. That'll be our smaller group. At least by the time the mid-year comes, we're gonna have a lot of infants. So we're gonna be starting.
I forget how many people, was it like 12 or 13?
We had 15 last year, but I would say we had 9 to 10 consistent all day. I think
15 infants?
No. We had
Oh.
1 infant last year.
I was like, wow.
Yeah. No, we're gonna have.
What's happening?
We're gonna have closer to 7 infants or more. I think we'll get up to that 16
That's a lot.
range, that 14 to 16 range this year. Of total.
And you'll be able to staff for that many infants?
Well, we also are banking on the fact that we're gonna have a robust ELO program and that students are gonna be part of that is allowable for ratios. And so when you have that taking place and you have the staff and we have qualified staff, we have 3 that will be coming in the fall, that they can, utilize those individuals and guide them and teach them. And that is the model that we're hoping to achieve this year. We made good steps last year. I would say we need to make bigger steps this year.
I want to ask about the July and August. It didn't even occur to me that there would be summer program, but I see you did tuition for July and August. Are we doing summer for them?
We have some people who are utilizing it, not very many. Our staff right now is working on curriculum and rearranging rooms and things of that nature, and also are serving as staff at our ESY and PEP camps.
Yeah,
So they're
it just
getting,
never occurred to me that we would have that. That's awesome.
yeah, they're getting their own professional development. I had a conversation with them last week about, hey, what are you learning from that? Just in the first week, they're taking charge on some of the I don't know, you wouldn't call it a class, but the time periods, the timeframes, activities within the classroom that they're in, and so that's working out really well.
Wonderful. Very cool.
Thanks.
I'll make a motion to accept the tuition increases as given.
Thank you, Charlie.
Second,
Thank you, Sandy. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of accepting the Little Orioles tuition proposal as presented, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And abstentions? So that passes 5-0. And the next action item is the boys hockey co-op with Monadnock and Fall Mountain.
Okay, so Principal Dustin and their Lindstad, they might be online tonight to answer questions, but this is the letter that they have put forward. I'll read it. We are seeking the school board's approval for Conant Middle High School to join a boys hockey cooperative agreement with Monadnock Regional Middle High School and Fall Mountain High School. The boys hockey program has been without a cooperative since the Conant Conval Cooperative was dissolved in the 2022 school year. This cooperative would replace that cooperative and provide an opportunity for boys hockey players to access the sport. As with our prior cooperative, players would be responsible for the build costs from Monadnock associated with joining this team. Thank you for your consideration.
So is that, it says that we'll accept the Monadnock's whatever it just was, the bill or whatever. What does it say?
Says pay for play.
Right. So is that, does that mean that, does Monadnock, basically, I don't even know if you know, but does Monadnock and Fall Mountain already have a team and we're joining them as a third? So they already
So it
have,
was Conval,
Yeah.
Monadnock, and
oh yeah,
because
Conval.
Conval left us and then joined the two of them. I think there are a lot of politics that have been
Yeah.
kind of behind the scenes and all of that.
Okay.
And so we're kind of on the out of that.
Mhm.
I don't believe Conval is going to continue with that. I do know that out of the team, we actually have people who play
Yeah,
and would play.
Yeah.
And other schools in the cooperative, maybe some years don't. We
Mhm.
would have been a consistent partner.
mhm.
It's unfortunate that we missed a little bit of time, but this is an opportunity to get into the game.
So where the girls go?
The girls currently are in a co-op with Conval,
Right,
and we are
just
looking. As of right now, it is still in, as of this past year, it's in play. I don't know what the next year is gonna bring. So we'll have to have a conversation about girls hockey later.
Make a motion to approve, our, boys hockey to, join the cooperative with, Monadnock and Fall Mountain.
Thank you,
I'll second.
Charlie. Thank you, Kim. Any further discussion? All right, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the cooperative, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? And abstentions? So that passes 5-0. And we'll move on.
I do want
Oh.
to say, thanks to Heather for staying on top of this. This has been a couple of years of battling, finding willing groups to join, not going to NHIAA, fighting for different types of cooperative. there's some interesting rules that have been in play in NHIA that may or may not, support students getting involved in sports, in this day and age, but they are what they are, and, I think it's good that we continue to move forward and didn't give up.
Yeah, I hope this one works out. I know that we had a promising one last year that was kind of derailed by some of those rules.
Yes.
Probably, so hopefully
Yeah.
nothing like that happens this time, and I think that hopefully this is early enough now too, right? We're pretty
I think,
early in the process.
I think we're early in the
Maybe
process.
the last time we were a little bit late in the process. I think it was. Hopefully this time allows for any of that to get figured out. Maybe there just won't be any issues. That would be nice.
I mean, we're replacing another school that it's an existing team. The other one was Keene wanted them, and I don't know what honestly, I don't know the reason why. Yes, it was late, but I don't know if that was a consistently applied rule. It may have been.
Excellent.
All right,
Policy.
move on to the Lisa Wiley portion of the program, section 7 policy. So I'll hand it over to you, Lisa.
All right. So the first policy is JICF. This is for second reading, gang culture and criminal activity. Currently, our policy was last reviewed 2005. What's showing is not that, it's showing edited language to update it. But I believe Ruben has some input from the admin.
So the school admin met and talked about all three of these, and this one right here, they don't believe that the district needs, and without going into great detail, I don't believe that the people who have, there was a fair amount of conversation on this, didn't feel that it was necessarily needed, and also that it was appropriate. So
I think
the
I think
school
we need a little
administrator,
more.
it felt that,
What's the harm in having it?
Yeah,
well, we've had it. But they don't feel that it is needed to be had.
That, I'm sorry, it's hard to hear you, I'm sorry. They don't
They
feel.
don't feel that it's needed to be
that it's
had.
needed.
But no harm in having it, right? Like I'm confused. Like what?
There are many school districts that do not have this policy.
Right, you had said that you had a hard time looking for them.
Some
Right.
school
Right,
districts and as well as some of the individuals within our school district would
So-
believe that this is offensive.
Well, and so maybe it's not an issue right now, like that's fantastic. I mean, I'm not sure who reads through the policies every night to say, wow, this is really bad, but like, why not be proactive rather than reactive? In case. I
Well, they all.
do they feel it's gonna like
Well, I think that also.
start
You know,
again?
discipline and bullying and things of that nature are all covered already in other policies.
Mhm.
And so part of the reason why this one is kind of left out there in 2005 and a lot of places don't have it because it's perhaps not current.
So I guess I could see it as far as especially the visible wearing, piercing of certain cultural norms that, you know, so people who enjoy wearing chains, torn clothing, multiple piercings, maybe being targeted, saying that those are, so maybe I could see it in that kind of a realm.
Yeah.
People who are visibly expressing their identity might be seen, but I thought that this kind of said known, like made it clear it was known gang things, but maybe, okay, I could see that for somebody who is simply wearing t-shirts that have symbolism on them that's the fashion of a rock band. You know, I don't want to set anybody up for targeting either. So do you think the admin feel like that's the
I think-
is that,
I think that the language in here probably targets specific people groups more than others.
okay,
And that's a
that they,
concern.
that
Yeah.
could be taken for people?
That's
Okay.
correct. I think that,
Okay, so it is
I
the,
think that they feel that any behavior that is not appropriate, that would fall in line with this, is covered with other policies, and they're fine with handling that.
okay. All right, so is it the recommendation of the admin to remove policy JICF?
It is.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. We do have lots of discipline ones. And at the policy committee, we can definitely look at some of this language. I do like, the phrasing of antisocial activity as defined by aggressive and destructive behavior and incidents. I would like to make sure that some of our policies have some of this updated language. So let's take a look at as the policy committee and see areas that we can update that might, be protecting more students without, sorry, does that make sense?
Okay,
All right, then I will make the recommendation to remove policy JICF.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Kim. Any further discussion on this one? If not, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of removing policy JICF, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And abstentions? All right, so that passes. We'll move on to the next one, Lisa.
IKL is our New Hampshire School Board Association sample policy, which, should we approve this, we would clean up the revision notes, the highlighted, it wouldn't show up highlighted on the things. So we would take the school board association's revision notes, clean it up for our records, but the text would remain as is. What this policy does is update our current policy to include artificial intelligence as an educational option. And Ruben, was there feedback from the admin on this?
Feedback on this one was that overall it looked good. They would ask that the minimum in C, consequences, that the minimum consequence should or shall be a 0, that be removed. But that the minimum consequence would involve the student having a learning experience and being held accountable for the work. So, for instance, they may not take the same test but they would take a replacement, because we want to hold them to the learning. And that, in a way, giving a 0 like this and saying that's your
Kind of gets them out of
is a
it.
punishment and actually goes against what we're trying to do. And there's, plagiarism, for instance, occurs for a lot of reasons. Some, literally don't know and they need to learn. Others, it depends on whether it's repeat situations as well. But I think that that grading aspect of it is what they would like removed.
So is it the admin's recommendation under consequences to simply write the disciplinary consequences for violations of this policy shall be consistent with board policy and the student code of conduct, period?
Yes.
I would think that's an appropriate amendment. So I will ask the board to approve this policy, IKL, as amended.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Sandy. Any further discussion on the academic honesty and integrity policy? Not, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of improving policy IKL as amended, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Abstentions? So that passes 5 to 0 to 0. We'll move on to the last one on today's agenda.
This policy updates our cell phone and personal technology device policy. And as written, separates high school from K-8.
So the administration had a lot of conversation about this and came to when I say administration, we're talking about all the principals, guidance counselors, or school counselors that be within the school anyway. The student services representation. So there's about 11 or so individuals had this conversation. And they came to the conclusion that we needed a consistent district policy, pre-K through 8, and that high school should not be different than the elementary and middle. That cell phones it's not the battle takes away from learning, that the battle takes away from one classroom doing one thing, one classroom another thing, and having that inconsistency, putting teacher against teacher, also the time taken within the classroom to be able to get things situated and constantly have these conversations. They would prefer that technology, the policy be similar to K through 8 all the way through.
So
I will,
How will this be enforced?
if I missed anything, if there is someone online. I don't know if David is online watching or not. If I would be okay, he's not. Okay. But that was the consensus.
So what
We
you're
could go back,
saying,
we could go back to policy if you wanted to and invite some people back to have a conversation about it. It was a lengthy conversation.
so you are saying
Mhm.
that from the beginning of the school day
Mhm.
to the end of the school day,
Mhm.
no exception for lunches, periods off, periods in the library, cell phones are not to be used in school.
that's a very unsure shake.
Well, I think a couple things. One, they felt like the language about the bell to the bell.
We can change,
Would be
the
needing
bell
to
can
change.
change to beginning, end of day, but.
I'd have to look back at my notes, which I can't access right now, due to it being on my computer. But to answer that question specifically, but they wanted it more in line with the K through 8.
Right.
Yep. I think that I'd have to get clarification before I said yes or no
Okay, because,
about those two things.
all right, so. I think this is a very.
Mhm.
Big thing to say.
Mhm.
I really do, and you know that. The consequences of saying that students may not use cell phones.
Mhm.
And is something that's happening across the country.
Right.
There are school districts saying this.
Yeah.
This is news, and it is something that needs real, how will this be done? Because this is rife for teachers feeling very unsafe if they force this issue when other teachers are not. And that happens with hats, it happens with chewing gum, it happens with all kinds of things. But if you can't back this up and have the support to say all or none.
Mhm.
That's what this would look like. And that would include watches, smart watches, that would include, any personal devices that access Wi-Fi or access,
Yep.
broadband. So that's a big statement for the admin to say, and that's awesome. I can
Mhm.
see us backing that.
Yeah,
As long as we can see that
that's where we're.
this isn't
Definitely,
setting
that's the
up.
direction that is desired to. I think that the conversation was long because, when a couple years ago, when it was certain, the first policy in a sense in the handbook was developed, it was, we want people to have flexibility, use, phones when they want to, and not students, but like when the teachers say, I'm going to use this for an educational reason, and to have that flexibility. And what the reality is that it's just a battle. And students are losing learning time. And those two items of causing friction with adults and with kids, as well as the learning time loss from just people having their phones on and not being engaged, is significant enough that at least during the learning times of the days that they do not have access. So your question about the lunch and, like a senior block or something like that
Right.
is something that I would want clarification on.
Which would be different for high school and grade school.
It would
Or-
be-
But that's what they're saying. They
I
don't
know.
want it different, which
Yeah.
how do you, like,
How else do you do it?
I don't want to sit here blindly and say, yeah, let's go, without
Right.
knowing that there is a structure, a
Right.
scaffold in place
Mhm.
to answer those.
Right.
This will have to go in the handbook, and boy, do I not want blackberries to be put in the handbook again,
Yeah.
I think that this is worth making sure that we get right.
Yeah.
So I can see, so it sounds like this is part of the conversation.
Right.
That right now where the admin is at is we want it consistent across.
Mhm.
And the consistency is that they don't want cell phones.
That's correct.
How do we craft that language? How do they craft that language so that all parties feel safe, honestly?
Mhm.
That does come to that. And feel respected, like with the gang culture. So I'm perfectly fine tabling this. But what I would love to see, if I could ask, is that the next time we talk about it, could we have a variety of admin here?
Yep.
To, have either show us a final product, because I don't think the policy committee can write this.
Right.
Is that,
So what we'll do is we will work on drafting
Mhm.
it exactly. And then having a couple individuals, elementary and so the span, the elementary and the high school.
Yep.
Are covered.
that'd be great.
Do you input?
I don't think there's any
Yeah,
problem with the
unenforceable
cell phones not being on at lunch. Let them visit with each other.
Yeah.
Learn how to be social.
It'd be great for, I know, so it's not at all.
I think quite frankly, that's more of the conversation, because part of it is that,
Can't see it working.
we need people to be social.
They don't
And
know how to be
that-
social with anybody.
And that even in those non-structured times, there's still been a battle here and there, and that it's not a necessary battle.
Right, but there's going to, like he said, there's going to need to be a way to enforce this.
But the enforceability of those specific timeframes is what was running in my head as you were asking, so I wanted to make sure that we had things a little more clearly defined.
Scramblers.
But the intent, the idea is not to have so much flexibility.
Can I ask, this is a random question, did this conversation give Heather any hesitation? Because athletics has a lot of communication during the day, I imagine.
Mhm.
And, there's so many things being put together, busing, transportation, and, all kinds of, absences and sudden, did she have any hesitation with this? I'm just curious, like.
Well, Heather wasn't part of this specific conversation.
Okay.
Now, we do have these right up here
Yeah.
that give a lot of information out when there's a cancellation or a bus change or anything like that. So
Mhm.
there are ways that we have to communicate
True.
that is all around the school and in your face, in a sense, that's being pushed out when that happens. So I think student athletes know to look for information. And if there is something that's more pressing, they can put it in the comment if need be.
Yeah, I believe that, I don't want to speak for the board, but I believe if you could show us the enforcement, the scaffolding.
Yeah.
How this could be practically day to day be done.
Yeah.
That this is a big step, and that's something, absolutely, let's look at, but.
Yeah. Yeah, we do think the conversation went to the point of even believing that it will have impact on educational outcomes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So mental health, certainly, I mean, we're looking at everything, but
Yeah, and I don't think.
We'll have something more robust for next
Yeah,
time.
I don't think any of us need to know why this is a good thing, like, of course.
Yeah.
Of
No,
course.
it's a good thing.
I think we, yeah, really to focus on how could this possibly be implemented in the high school?
Yep.
Yeah, K to 8, absolutely, but how could that actually happen?
Mhm.
And the middle school won't be easy, but
Right.
how could that, what would that even look like? Would be awesome to see.
Yep.
Thank you.
Right, so we'll table that one, you said?
We'll be back for the next.
Sounds
with,
good.
With individuals in
Yeah,
a variation. of
Perfect.
this.
okay.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. I think that was good discussion on all three of those. And we'll revisit that last one at the next meeting. The 8th item on the agenda is board committee updates. I know there have been at least a few committee meetings since we last met. I don't know. I'll start down here at this end of the table, see if there's anything. Anything, Charlie?
We haven't had meetings since last night.
Haven't had a meeting since last.
Perfect, I'll go. We have, education committee has met. We just met on Thursday, I believe. It went really well. We got a lot of data updates for the SAS and all the different testings, for middle and high school. I believe that though, all those graphs and stuff, they're all available to the community, right? So I don't have to go through any of that. It was just good information. So if you're interested in that, I would check it out. We asked for. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I'm right here. So basically the next time we meet, not the next time we meet, but one thing that came out of it was that we will hear back like in November or December. I put on how this works. What did I do? Oh, wit and wisdom, because we were talking about wit. I'm sorry, I'm gonna jump here. Talking about wit and wisdom in the grade schools. And everything looks like it's a go. Everything's so far going really well. A lot of the admin and the working pieces have come together. They now are in the process of pushing it out to the teachers, I believe, just before it starts. And it's going to be kind of like correct me if I'm wrong, both of you, but like almost like a slow rollout, because wit and wisdom isn't as long as the school year. So they get to hold off a little bit in the beginning and get through the beginning of school stuff that would normally happen, so they can create their classrooms and environments and friendships and whatnot, and then they'll dive into that later. Assuming and hoping that they then have all of the proper meetings that they needed to have in order to learn this program. So then that was my go over this. In November, December, I asked to hear back so that we can hear the feedback of how everything has been going. And did the teachers, do they feel prepared? Like, is it going okay? Do they have all the information that they need? I know they have all the workbooks, they have all the stuff, but I guess my greatest concern for the teachers was it's another thing to learn to then put out to the students. And it's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot going on. And so on top of that, those few days where you're starting school, you got to do this, you got to do that. Oh, and here's wit and wisdom. So it's hard. There's a PD or 2 days actually devoted to wit and wisdom, right?
There's professional development that's happening on 26th of August for all the elementary teachers as well as the literacy teachers of the
Perfect.
middle school. And then also simultaneously, there's a kind of a half version of that for all the other teachers, because literacy is across the curriculum. And then at the same time, math is going to be done in the middle school with the same company.
Excellent.
And then wit and wisdom will come back several times throughout the course of the year, but the next one will happen in September. And then there's another partial one that's done virtually online in October.
Okay. And then we just talked a little bit about more data we did a lot of, got a lot of data in the middle and high school on, they did incidents and then SAS, SAT, AP courses. And so we kind of talked to them a little bit more about how about some daily stuff? How about you show us like the students' first quarter, it does get muddy second, third quarter, and fourth quarter. Like, how are we doing? as a student, like on a daily basis, like our threes and our fours, our summatives, like how are the kids doing from the first quarter to the fourth quarter? And for us to see that data, obviously, you know, more of just comprehensive data, not individual, it's gonna be anonymous and whatnot. And then also, I think another thing that was brought up that was really good is to, in October, possibly taking that data and also being able to compare it to other New Hampshire schools. Like, how are we doing comparatively to other New Hampshire schools here? So I think that was it. So that was it. It was good information. We'll get more next time.
Kim?
Need it.
A lot of data,
We didn't have much
a lot
time
of-
to analyze it, got a lot of it.
a lot of graphs and lines and bars.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I scheduled the communications committee. We're gonna try for July 29th at 4 PM, so that invite is out. So by the next meeting, we should have an update on that. Get together with whoever's available and start moving that forward. It's an important one. I'd like to meet before the school year starts. Sandy, any updates?
Facilities met this morning, met with Sandy, went over things. She gave us an update on the HVAC. Ken is here going through and trying to shoot any problems that are left with it. The surveys are all coming back looking like it's working like it's supposed to be. The facilities, it's fully staffed, Sandy reported, so that's good. We're gonna have a meeting for goal objectives. There was some discussion about phone coverage on the lower field as to what we could do when sports started down there. Ruben's gonna look at some kind of Band-Aid. So that was that. The Gale report, working on it. They should come back with that. When they come back with that, we'll have a meeting to go over that. We hope to get some community members involved in listening to that and what that plan is for the fields. And the CTE is, they have some meetings coming up. So. Anything else, Sandy?
Thank you, Sandy. Lisa, do you have any committee updates?
Just that policy, looks like, finance is gonna meet on, August 15th. And policy is gonna meet Thursday, August 1st at 4 PM. And we got some updated, language for the food service policy to be able to include numbers, and so we'll be focusing on that first. That's the policy committee.
Lisa? Did I miss anything? Any other committee updates? I don't think so. Next up is discussion items. Didn't have any. You bring any up? Charlie, you look like you have
I
something
had
to
two,
discuss. What's that?
one was, can we look into having a room where board members can meet for committees without having to have a special key or something to unlock it? That we can get into just with our fobs? Or else if it requires a special key, that we can get the special key? Let's see, what was it? Phone number.
We could just like have a school board rock outside that we know is ours, just write SB on it. And just pick up the rock and get a key. That'd be fine.
Throw a tent over it. Get some space heaters.
I'll do it.
It's gone.
Let's go. I'll remember it anyway.
Sounds good. If there are no more discussion items, we'll move on to our second session of public comments for this meeting. Again, we don't have anybody here in the audience, so I'll turn to the online audience to see if there's any public comments. It doesn't look like it.
I ask something, Chris? Will
Yes.
we have this cell phone policy done in time to go into the handbooks that should go out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, you won't approve those handbooks. That'd be good. We'll get there.
Okay. I just didn't know how much time we had.
We want to wrap things up by early August.
So if there's no public comments, we'll move on to board matters. Didn't have anything specific for today's agenda. If there's nothing else. There's only one item left.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Kim has made a motion to adjourn.
Did you just say no?
Please do not listen
But
to the
it's
side of the
only
table.
7:30.
Nobody has seconded yet.
I second.
Lisa seconds. All those in favor of adjournment, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed and abstentions, so that passes 5-0, and we are adjourned. 7:30 PM.
Yeah.
He shoots off fireworks. Every Sunday night.
Oh, no, which one?